Hello everyone, welcome to my first video for my politics series. In this topic, we will be discussing the importance of Christianity in the government and society as a whole, and how things have gone more than slightly off since the start of the Bible being taken out bit by bit in today's worldview. We will be tackling the following in a two-part format, each topic with their own video. As a note, please be aware that yes, I do disagree with a lot of people on these topics, and I will defend my beliefs to the very end. However, I am not a homophobe or transphobe or a misogynist or sexist or whatever, as many would like to say or call me by. I do not hate or wish ill fortune upon those I disagree with, because I follow the words of Jesus, who calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves and then some. Be aware, however, that just because you love someone, that does not mean you have to support them or go along with everything they do, especially if you know that it is wrong or it is potentially harmful to them. In this two-part special, I will be discussing the two biggest dividers amongst Christians and in politics alike, as well as pointing out the flaws for Christians who say that these things are okay, despite the Bible stating multiple verses or cases against it. The topics will be abortion and LGBTQ issues. And yes, I know I'm starting out with a rather hefty and highly debated pair of issues, but I am strongly firm in my beliefs regarding these, and I wish to express my research into both parts and how I apply the Bible to both issues. But with that being said, without further ado, let us dive into today's topic and really pry open some of the issues we have in today's culture. Okay, let us discuss one of the biggest killers in the world, abortion. I know what some of you may be thinking, but Ranter, fetuses aren't alive yet, so therefore it isn't murder. Well, two things. One, I believe those who believe that fetuses aren't alive are very much so wrong. And two, we will discuss the evidence supporting the opposite of your claims, as well as looking into another idea brought up by some that fetuses aren't human. I know it sounds silly, but unfortunately there are people who make that claim, and quite frankly, it makes no sense. At least to me anyways. But with that, on to the first note. So, to start things off, let's answer the big question. What does it mean to be alive? Well, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, there are quite a few ways to define or explain what it means to be alive. Let's check a few of them, shall we? Definitions 1 through 4. Having life, not dead or inanimate. Still in existence, force or operation. Knowing or realizing the existence of something. And marked by alertness, energy, or briskness. Just to name a few. So, what exactly am I getting at with these definitions? Well, let's take a look. Each definition can and does apply to a fetus. How, you might be asking? Well, let me show you. Definition 1. Well, sonograms in the mother can usually prove that the fetus is animate. Kicks and movements detected in the wombs are usual good signs of animation, right? The baby inside is clearly moving about, forming and growing. And since growing is an act of animation or life, I'd say that that's a great example. Still not convinced, huh? How about definition 2? To be frank, I'm pretty convinced the baby inside the womb is still in existence. I mean, it was put there, right? And since it's in there, growing and forming, I'd say it's existing, as well as operating. Or why not definition 3? Now, here's where things get a little tricky. As with definition 3, there is plenty of sound evidence and real proof of fetuses reacting to or understanding the existence of something. I cannot find the video I saw this from. YouTube most likely deleted it. It was from a while ago. But in the video, you can see a doctor performing an abortion on a fetus. And as he puts the scissors in there to cut the cord and to kill the baby, it grabs the scissors in an attempt to push it out and to defend itself from the foreign entity entering the womb. If you manage to find the video, just be warned that it is graphic and it's disheartening, honestly. It made my heart skip a little with not happiness, sadness, a sad skip. But it proves the point of definition 3, that the babies inside the womb can be alert or active and understand that, oh, there's something that's not supposed to be in here. It should just be me and the placenta. Well, with definition 4, I know most of these are similar, if not nearly identical, but it still suits the definition. There are plenty of videos and testimonies from mothers who can feel the baby active and moving around in the womb. So, like one, kicking, growing, etc., etc. So, it helps the case with the definition. So with that being said, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a fetus can be identified as, if not a living human, a living creature. But now I turn to the people who push abortion. If the fetus is not alive, even though by definition it is, where does that life start? Many say that it starts out of the womb and with their first breath. But the dictionary does not specify breath. And on top of that, by your definition, many species of North American freshwater turtles, such as red-eared sliders, Mississippi map turtles, stuff like that, as well as Eurasian carp and goldfish of all things, are all able to survive with no oxygen for months at a time when they brumate under mud in frozen lakes during the winter. Or bats, who for 6 months solid up to, can cut their intake of air by 98% while they are in suspended animation, or another form of brumation essentially. I got this stuff from Science News blog in the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, by the way. I'll put links in where I get all my information from in there. Another new species that was discovered as recent as 1983, called the Loricifera, are small organisms who live deep down in the ocean and cannot breathe at all, yet they survive perfectly fine. So with the argument of breathing and air, are you saying that turtles and fish are no longer alive for months on end until they breathe again? Are bats only 2% alive while in deep sleep? Are Loricifera just dead while alive? It would occur to me that science proves your arguments quite incorrect. And this is just the non-Christian based argument. For those of the faith, I go to a different segment in our beliefs, the Bible. Many verses show that, well, God knows and loves us more than we could ever possibly know. Just look at the famous John 3:16. But jumping back a ways into the Old Testament, we see plenty of verses showing just how intricate God can truly be. Here are a few examples. Psalm 71:6. Upon you I have leaned from my birth. You are he who took me from my mother's womb. My praise is continually of you. Psalm 139:13. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. Ecclesiastes 11:5. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I anointed you a prophet to the nations. And Psalms 127:3. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. These are just a few examples of us understanding that God knew and loved us before we were even conceived. And yes, technically some of these were more specific towards one person. That doesn't mean he doesn't apply that to everyone. There are also several laws regarding pregnant women and their unborn babies back in the old days, such as a more primitive one not unlike what we have today. In the book of Exodus, one law stated that if someone were to harm a pregnant woman and the baby came out early because of it, there was trouble, lots of trouble for that person or a group of people, depending on how it all played out. So now with these verses and all in mind, can any Christian who is pro-choice give a good reason or argument that would suggest God be okay with such a thing? He made us in his image, he knit us in our mother's wombs, and if we look at the definition of life or being alive, then we are most certainly taking a life from the womb, which God says, thou shalt not kill. Now, this leads me to the third and final point of abortion. Those of you who don't think fetuses are human, I have but one simple question for you then. If they aren't human, what are they? We define them as alive. We clearly read God sees to the making of children in the womb. So what on earth are they then according to you? If a dog is pregnant with puppies, are they not baby dogs? Are they not puppies? If a lizard lays eggs, are the fertile embryos in the eggs not lizards? And what logic can you tell me that a human fetus is not a human? Is it a giraffe? A rhino? A hyena? Is it just nothing? Is it just a creature? Just an entity in the womb until it becomes a human? And this applies to both Christians and non-Christians, mind you. I know I've met Christians who thought this, and I was kind of like, weird. So now, with all of this in mind, I come to my final point, and that is the side effects for women too. Not surprisingly, there are plenty, and I mean plenty of women who regret ever getting an abortion, whether they believe it themselves or not. I, as well as others in my family, know of people in our not my friend group, but my parents' new friends, etc., who regret what they did. And the amount of people online who regret getting an abortion are uncountable. Now I know what you're probably thinking. If there are so many women who regret it, why don't we ever hear about them or see their stories? Well, that's because they are silenced. Hidden behind a wall, the screaming, angry pro-choicers, all hell-bent on pushing their insane and dangerous ideologies. And I don't say that lightly, mind you. I'm not saying all leftists, all pro-choicers are screaming, angry mobs. It's just a lot of them seem to be that way whenever you discuss the topic of abortion. There are lots of videos that prove it. So, and don't think I didn't notice the men too out there who are pro-choice. But I can guarantee many are pro-abortion simply because they don't want to deal with the work and dedication of caring for a child. I'm not saying all are like this, but I am sure many are. Now, onto statistics of this situation. According to the World Health Organization, 45% of all abortions are unsafe, of which 97% of said abortions take place in developing countries. So there's problem number one. Regardless of it being legal or illegal, practiced or unpracticed, it is still a high risk factor wherever you go. In 2021, Human Life International did a study and concluded that only 3.5% of abortions done up to May of 2021 were considered hard cases. Hard cases meaning rape, incest, mental health of the mother, and birth defects, as well as eugenics, which is really sad. So that means 96.5% of all other abortions were simply because the mother didn't want to keep the child, or they were financially unstable. Now, I can totally understand and sympathize with those who were victims of rape. Rape is a terrible thing, and any man who does that to a woman deserves only the harshest of prison sentences. But I also do hope and pray that they find God and that they truly repent for what they've done. However, as for the mother, I also understand that while you may not have asked for the child, at least not in that way, that should not mean the only answer is to end the life of the child. The child should not be put on death row for the idiocy of the father. And for those of Christian faith, even if the mother didn't ask for it, why stop something that God can turn into good? Yes, it is very sad and awful when such things happen, but does that stop God from doing amazing things with the given circumstances? Of course not. Look at several stories in the Bible of God turning a bad or dangerous situation into a true blessing or miracle. The book of Esther is a rather fine example. And no, I'm not saying God wanted or planned for someone to be raped. He never condones evil. But he also gave us the power of free will and to do both good or bad with it. And trust me, the bad get punished if they don't change. God is very, very clear of that. Now, back to the biggest reasons for abortions. There are several certain easy answers to the problems at hand that can avoid abortions or unwanted pregnancies, and those are birth control or don't have sex at all. At least until you are financially prepared for a child, because protection is never 100% effective. Now, granted, I don't believe in sex before marriage to begin with, but if you're to go and do it anyway, just think of the potential consequences and aftermath of what is to come. Besides the mental health issues abortion can and will most likely cause, the physical side effects are just as bad, if not worse. This is all according to the First Coast Women's Service. These can include heavy and excessive bleeding, developing pelvic inflammatory disease, ectopic pregnancies and other fertility. Ectopic, I probably mispronounced that. Other issues later on, and so forth, so forth. So to me, I see these as even worse, especially if someone were to get an abortion now and then want to have kids in the future. What if it fails? What if your internal structure is damaged from something gone wrong? Structure being like the womb, etc., etc. Regardless of how good the doctors are, what if your future children found out that they could have had an older sibling, but that they were taken away? All right, look. I'm not trying to guilt trip anyone. And honestly, I feel more sorry for people in these types of situations than anything else. But you also must think of the future and the consequences of what your current actions could lead to, or the lives you could lose or end because of one little thing. It's not little. Abortion is never a little thing. But I think you understand my point. But hey, as I near the end of this video, allow me to end it on a happier, brighter note. You are so loved, more than you could ever imagine. Every one of you. Regardless of what you have done or may do in the future, just remember that good can come from the worst of situations. If you give it up to God, I am a living testimony of what God has done for me and what he can do for others as well when they set their hearts to him. And I fully believe he can and will do great things for you, no matter what the circumstances. I know this final segment only truly applies to those thinking of abortion as a choice, whether they're pregnant or not, or if they're worried about it. And I hope none of you ever have to come to that idea or term whatsoever. But just know that there is light at the end of the dark and painful road, and this applies to everyone. Whether you'll be in debt, going through a rough time or hardship in your life, or maybe you have a little bundle of joy just waiting to come and meet you. Whatever the case, just know that you can get through this, and there are so many people out there who want to help you. And if you find God along the journey, then I promise that no matter how rough it gets while you live on earth, I can guarantee you an eternity of happiness, love, and peace. So with that being said, guys, I just want you all to understand that I don't make these videos. I'm not going to be making these videos to harass or berate people who are pro-choice or are LGBT affiliated. I do not hate or dislike any of you. Obviously, I'm a little less fond of the ones who scream and are angry about it, but I don't hate you. I don't wish anything bad to happen to you, especially for those who are raped and are considering an abortion. You've already gone through one bad thing. I just want to help you realize that if you abort the baby, there's chances you could go through another just as bad, if not worse, situation for yourself. And just as a side note here, I will be making a video about Margaret Sanger. For those of you who know who she truly is or was, she was not a great person. So really, please don't send your money to Planned Parenthood. What they stood for, I know they don't stand for it now, but what they originally were meant for was pretty despicable. And I will make a whole another segment on that another time. But for now, just remember this, guys. You are all loved for and cared for by me. I know I don't know most of you per se. I'm sure some of my friends are watching this, but as God called me to, I wanted to make this channel not just to educate people, but also to reach out to people in need who may be struggling or not knowing what to do. I am happy to listen, if not, be a full guide or teacher. The least I can do is be a listener. So if you guys want me to, in the comments, ask for it, and I don't mind popping an email in there, letting you guys so you can vent to me if you ever need it. I know I'm just a complete stranger on the internet, but I've noticed that some people tend to do better with venting their feelings and frustrations to strangers versus people that they know well. And I totally get that. It's the same for me sometimes too. So just know that the option is there for those who need it. But with that being said, guys, I just hope that this video helps you, at least the ending, and I hope that those of you who didn't know just learn some basic facts. There are many better videos about abortion out there on YouTube about the problems with it and the darker ends of it. There are several videos that I can point you guys to if you want me to in the comments of a doctor explaining how abortions really work and what they do for second and third trimester videos. They're very graphic though, so definitely be warned, it is not a pretty thing to listen to or watch. So just heads up for that, guys. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more content, then please like and share, leave a comment, and subscribe, and turn on that little notification bell so you can get more of my content in the future if you so wish. I hope you all have a blessed day, and God loves you.